Hello everyone, today I will tell you about the film Felon. Enjoy watching! Before watching, please don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. I'm trying to develop this channel, and your support is the only thing I have. Wade Porter is an ordinary working man who lives with his fiancée Laura and son Michael. The couple has just received a mortgage. The man has his own crew of workers and plans for the future. But one night, he and his fiancée were awakened by some noise. Wade grabbed a bat and headed for the exit. At the door, he was attacked by a robber and then ran out into the yard. When the criminal reached for a weapon, Wade hit him over the head with a bat, but misjudged the force of the blow and fractured the boy's skull. The intruder died on the lawn before the ambulance arrived. The sheriff says that the robber did not have a weapon. Only Wade's wallet was found in his hand. If the man had struck in the house or the criminal had a weapon with him, the police would have considered it self-defense. So Wade was arrested. Outside the house, the dead man no longer posed a threat, but the man still chased him with a bat. Wade was taken to the prisoner reception center, fingerprinted, dressed in a robe, and thrown in with the others. A dark-skinned bandit with a mohawk saw the fear in Wade's eyes, and immediately attacked him because he was staring at him. But the man was no pushover and took the aggressor in a chokehold. The guards quickly stopped the fight. Soon, Wade was taken to a cell with Mexicans, but they only clarified what days he washed the floor and let him calmly go to his bunk. Laura came to visit her husband the next day. The woman is now afraid to be home alone. Wade does not know what awaits him. He was assigned a public defender. The standard bail for a murder charge is $1 million. Wade, of course, does not have that kind of money. At the same time, serial killer John Smith starts a riot out of boredom in San Quentin. As punishment, he is thrown into a cage in the yard. The head of security, Cam Rose, gives him one last chance and transfers him to another prison, so that the seasoned convict can try to start a new life there. The lawyer offers Wade a deal, and then he will be found guilty of manslaughter. He will get no more than 3 years and will serve half of them. Wade has already spent 100 days behind bars, only 15 months left. The other option is a jury trial, a charge of premeditated murder and a looming term of 15 years. Wade realized that he would have to plead guilty, although his reputation would be ruined for the rest of his life. On the way to prison, a prisoner nicknamed Snowman starts talking to him. He enthusiastically talks about the mustachioed Danny Sampson, the leader of the Aryan Brotherhood, and offers to immediately take their side. We are introduced to another hero, a loving father, Warden Jackson. A girl wants to beat up his son. Dad advised him to kick her in the balls. On the bus, Iroquois' friend, who also attacked him, looks at Wade. Snowman advises him to run over first, and he happily supports him. Suddenly, stern Danny Sampson pulled a shiv out of his pants and stabbed the big guy sitting in front with it. The authority gave the shiv to the frightened Snowman and wiped the blood on it. At the entrance to the prison, the Snowman threw the knife to Wade and asked him to say that he found it under the seat. The shocked man was thrown into solitary confinement. Everything turned out much worse than he expected. Wade goes crazy in solitary confinement. Afterwards, he was brought in for questioning and asked to tell who stabbed the prisoner. Jackson advised not to count on the authorities' favor. He had just stabbed his own. The time will come when he will crush Wade too. Because of the incident on the bus, he will have to sit in the maximum security section where real monsters live. The new guy was taken to a cell and his handcuffs were removed. An hour of walking a day and 3 showers a week. That's all he can count on. Jackson interviewed new Warden Collins. John Smith is transferred to them, and Jackson suggested putting him in solitary confinement. He had staged a riot in every prison where he had been, but the warden did not agree. The rebel would sit with everyone else. Before opening the door to the cell, Wade was ordered to strip naked, show his ears, armpits, and mouth, lift his scrotum, and spread his buttocks. The so-called walk takes place in a small concrete box, and here real chaos occurs. The guards allow prisoners to fight one-on-one. They will still arrange fights, but this way they can control everything and place bets. The black man defeated the Mexican, and only after that the alarm sounded. They stopped, but still received a rubber bullet in the body. The winner allowed himself to swear at Jackson, for which the guard took him to another room and brutally beat the defenseless prisoner. He was led down the corridor as a lesson for everyone. Laura also had a hard time before her next date. She was searched and forced to strip naked after the metal detector went off. The woman is in shock because her husband ended up in the maximum security section. They also added 90 days to his sentence. The family has financial problems. They will have to spend the loan money. When John Smith was led down the corridor, everyone went quiet. The killer, avenging his daughter and wife, sent 16 or 17 people to the next world. But Jackson decided to mock the authority and kept the last photo of Smith's family. Smith was put in Quaid's cell. The authority took his neighbor's bed and announced his rules. The cellmates went for a walk, and the Southerners immediately showed Smith their respect. Snowman appeared and introduced Wade to his friend Skinhead. Wade received advice. Do what needs to be done, and then he will be supported. In the cell, Smith asked the new guy to look at a photo of his family and wished to return to them one day. And it won't be easy because he's already managed to get in touch with the gang. The authority tells how things are here. The Hispanics are divided into southern and northern gangs. The blacks have a bunch of their own gangs. If needed, they are always ready to unite with the Asians. Almost all the whites join the Aryan Brotherhood. They are constantly recruiting newcomers to trade and cut up the unwanted. During another walk, some guy suddenly attacked Wade. At one point, the worker ended up on top and began to beat the enemy. Jackson gave Collins a rifle and ordered him to shoot the loser in the leg for attacking a female officer, but the newcomer did not obey, and Jackson did everything himself, after which he scolded Collins. In the cell, Smith advised the newcomer to forget about the law. The laws of cops and gangs reign here. Wade served 230 days, and for the first time in this time saw his son Michael. Laura saw who Wade had become friends with and couldn't believe her eyes. Her fiancé was now a skinhead. They were in dire straits with money and would have to sell their house and van to survive until Wade was released. The man was actively involved in fights, each time absorbing rubber bullets from the guards. Suddenly, he became one of the main fighters of the Aryans, who were put up against other competing gangs. The same Snowman had never fought before. Because Wade started to assert his rights, his own crowd began to beat him up. Suddenly, Smith stood up for his cellmate and broke the leg of one of the attackers. The Snowman began to threaten the authority. After some time, Wade returned from the infirmary. He did not listen to Smith's advice, which is why both he and the seasoned Zach became targets. We again see guard Jackson outside the prison. He met Collins and his pregnant wife. The young couple had recently moved and were trying to settle in their new place. On a walk, Sampson immediately called the offender over. The Snowman began to attack Wade, but the authority called the Snowman a rotten freak. He saw him hand Wade a knife. The Snowman was immediately beaten and cut with a sharpening. The whites won't touch you, Sampson told Wade. If you want, come. Collins learned that Jackson had long been waiting for a reason to take revenge on Sampson. One day, the authority peed on his face and infected him with hepatitis A, and he infected his wife and son. After that, they divorced. Security guard Robert suggested that Jackson, at least for a while, act according to the regulations. After all, the cameras record everything, and God forbid the recordings fall into someone's hands. He is about to retire and does not want to lose everything. But Jackson convinces his colleague that no one needs these scumbags, and no one will dig into their records. Wade has a nightmare about the guy he killed. Why didn't he stop then? You did the right thing, Smith replied. Family needs to be protected. His wife and 7-year-old daughter were brutally murdered by 2 scumbags. He found them naked, lying in their own blood. And so that the scumbags would feel the same pain, he killed all their relatives, wiped their family off the face of the earth. Almost a year has passed. Laura sold the house, but all the money went to pay off the loan. The woman's nerves are giving out. She lives with her mother and almost never sees her son because of work. She has nothing left, and her fiancé is here having fun with his brothers. After this meeting, an upset Wade refused to fight, and Jackson shot him out of anger, after which he ordered to take him to the detention center. The disfigured Snowman agreed to snitch on Sampson in exchange for protection. Jackson came to the chained Wade and put a stun gun to his balls. The prisoner began to apologize, but this was not enough for Jackson. Zach, who was cut on the bus, died after all, and Wade will go to trial as an accomplice to murder. And he only had 4 months left to serve. The court found Sampson guilty of premeditated murder and sentenced him to life imprisonment. Wade, as an accomplice, was given an extra 3 years. And because of Jackson's testimony, an extra 3 years for participating in a gang. In total, he will have to serve more than 6 years. His mother insists that Laura leave Wade and find herself a new man, because a hard worker can remain a gangster even after his release. Laura listened and wrote to her fiancé that she was leaving him. In the prison yard, Wade began to fight especially fiercely. Warden Cameras came to visit Smith. They had already become good friends. The man offered the authority to bring him new glasses, but he refused. Jackson's son was hit by a drunk driver. The offender's in a ward on the same floor. The lieutenant made a deal with his colleagues and visited the criminal. Jackson promised that if the man gets to him, his ass will be torn to shreds and he will die from blood loss. One day, a mohawked bandit was brought to prison, who attacked the still green Wade a year ago. Laura came to visit him anyway. She doesn't know how to live without Wade. The son also misses his father. The woman promised to wait for Wade as long as it takes. The main thing is that he stays with himself. Wade asks Smith what he should do. The scoundrel Jackson stole 7 years of his life. The seasoned one advises to make sure that everyone knows what is going on here. All that remains is to figure out how to do it. A couple of days later, Wade called Jackson over and promised to give a black dude a real beating today. But Jackson went further and demanded that Wade finish off his opponent, or he would die himself. Wade, on Smith's advice, asked Laura to come to Emruz to tell him about the chaos that was happening in the prison. Collins asked Wade not to do what was expected of him, otherwise he would never get out of here. Right now, Laura and an FBI agent are heading to the prison to confiscate the footage immediately after the fight, before they were erased. A persistent black man with a mohawk attacked Wade and started beating him up. The cunning Smith managed to make a small sharpening from the frame of his glasses. Wade managed to seize the initiative only when he grabbed his opponent by the balls, and then sat on top and began to drive the big guy's head into the concrete. Wade put his foot on the Mohawk's face and looked in Jackson's direction, but did not kill the defeated prisoner. The frostbitten officer wanted to open fire on him with live ammunition, but Smith locked his neighbor in with him and then the other prisoners. They didn't let his comrades back into the cell, but forced them to go back to the yard and lie down on the floor. Jackson pulled out a knife and ordered Diaz to hold the prisoners at gunpoint, and Sergeant Roberts realized that he'd better get out of here. All the recordings had already been erased, but Collins turned the cameras back on. Jackson was about to plunge the knife into Wade's skull and blame Smith for it, but the authority cut the scumbag off. And when he received a bullet from Diaz, he managed to slit Jackson's throat. Diaz fired again, and Smith died. Collins saved Wade by pressing the alarm button. The FBI agent arrived before the prison director had time to clean up. Collins, although he was not in cahoots with the others, will not be hired by any prison again. The Fed promises Wade to cancel the additional term in exchange for testimony. He will be released in 3 months. Camaro says that he guarded Smith for 20 years. Once the authorities saved his life, he was a good friend. Finally, Wade is released, and Snowman is put in a cell with Samson. It was Jackson who promised that Skinhead would be protected, but now he is dead. Snowman does not have much time left either. At the exit from prison, the happy Wade was awaited by his fiancée and son. This is where the film ends.